Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, right on the heels of his very successful, precise, surgical military operation in Venezuela, in which he toppled and captured the socialist dictator Nicolas Maduro, President Trump now has made it very clear this is not the end. This is only the beginning of the Monroe Doctrine, President Trump's corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, in which President Trump now says the United States will be the dominant power in the entire Western Hemisphere. And it's not just Venezuela and guaranteeing the oil reserves of Venezuela and stopping the march of communism or socialism in our backyard. But at the center of his new corollary, the so-called Monroe Doctrine, is Greenland. On a flight back from Mar-a-Lago, talking about the success of the amazing, frankly, Venezuelan raid, he was asked repeatedly about comments that he has now made about Greenland, in which the president has said now again and again, he wants Greenland. It's time to take Greenland. Greenland belongs to the United States, and the United States, one way or another, will get Greenland as a territory or as part of the United States. Listen now to Trump on Air Force One, talking back and forth with reporters. They asked him about Greenland, and listen now to what he said. Roll cut 4B, Mike.
I will say this about Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you. You know what Denmark did recently to boost up security in Greenland? They added one more dog sled. It's true.
Sir,
they thought that was a great move.
What would the justification be for a claim to Greenland? What would the justification?
Oh, I don't want to talk about Greenland now. I just say this. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security, and the European Union needs us to have it.
Now, he's right. He's completely right. Please don't get me wrong. Except the European Union is treating this very differently. They're not happy about this. In fact, it has created a diplomatic crisis, something that we haven't seen, I think, since the end of the Second World War. So here is now exactly what is taking place. As all of you know, Greenland is the largest island in the world. It is up essentially right there in the Arctic. It is 8-9 months of the year. It is a frozen tundra. It's got about 56,000 people that live there, so it's very lightly populated. That's right. You heard me right. 56,000. So it's the size of a small town in the United States. So why does Trump want Greenland? And by the way, it is a territory of the Kingdom of Denmark. So it is a territory of Denmark. It's semi-autonomous. They're democratic. They govern themselves, but they rely on subsidies from Denmark, and they're essentially a colony of Denmark. Now, Denmark is a part of NATO, and they've been a NATO ally of ours going back decades and decades. Obviously, if we were to take Greenland or launch a military operation to seize Greenland, this would be viewed as an attack on Denmark, which is a part of NATO. So it would be one NATO ally, us, attacking another NATO ally, Denmark, over Greenland. And NATO would then have to decide what their response would be. Now, the Danes are going absolutely apoplectic, and I'm going to get to this in a second. But these are now the stakes. The reason why Trump wants Greenland, and I believe the United States needs to have Greenland, is really for two reasons. Number one, it's got massive reserves underneath the ice of precious, crucial, rare earth minerals. Rare earth minerals that are pivotal for our economy in the 21st century. And China wants those minerals. Russia wants those minerals. They covet Greenland. Nobody cares about what's above the ice. They care what's beneath the ice, i.e. the rare earth minerals. And China in particular has been going to Africa, into the Western Hemisphere, Latin America, into Afghanistan. It's why the Chinese are there now. They want to have, and by the way, China itself has a ton of rare earth minerals. They want to amass a near global monopoly on these rare earth minerals to have a stranglehold on the global economy. That is China's goal. Rare earth minerals are sort of like the 21st century version of oil. Nobody thought much of oil until we invented, the engine and industry and plants and the combustion engine. And suddenly this black liquid became extremely valuable. Same thing with rare earth minerals. Nobody cared for them until now we realize we need them for chips, computers, laptops, iPhones, cell phones, components for missiles, for our military hardware. I could go on and on and on. So there is now a race for rare earth minerals. We have some in the United States, thank the Lord, but we need more. Greenland has those reserves. That's number one. Number two, the security of the Arctic. Now, many of you are going to say, Jeff, why the hell should we care about the Arctic? It's got polar bears. It's got igloos. It's freaking cold almost all year round. It's full of ice and tundra. Who cares? Yes, but deep down, there are vast reserves of oil and natural gas that have been discovered. Vast amounts, almost unlimited amounts. Russia and China want to control it, dominate it, and tap it. And so, to protect the Arctic, to prevent China and Russia from seizing the rare earth minerals and from dominating the Arctic, and with it, all of the oil and all of the natural gas at the bottom of the Arctic, we need Greenland. And Trump is right when he says Greenland will not only is vital for the national security and the economic security of the United States, but if we're to hold the Russians at bay, if we're to properly protect the Europeans, then if they're all worried about Vladimir Putin, well, this counteracts Putin, this counteracts Russia, this counteracts China, and this makes us strong enough to dominate the Western Hemisphere and protect Europe should Putin ever decide to launch an all-out invasion on the continent. So, from a rational point of view, you would think the Europeans would say, hey, Denmark's not doing much with Greenland. Denmark, frankly, has no real claim on Greenland because it's a territory that's being colonized by Denmark, and they're not even doing much for the Greenlanders. So if you guys want to buy it, if you guys want to take it, if you guys want to make a deal with the Greenlanders, go ahead. No. Oh, no. After Trump came out and said, we will take and seize Greenland. And by the way, he's not talking about a military invasion. Marco Rubio, behind closed doors, briefed lawmakers and said, Trump wants to buy it. He's going to make the Greenlanders an offer they can't refuse. Maybe a couple of $1 million per citizen. There's only 56,000 people. And he's going to tell the Greenlanders, nobody can develop your island more than the United States. We're going to build mines. We're going to build ports. We're going to pour in money. We're going to pour in investment. Denmark has done nothing for you. We can make Greenland the Virgin Islands or the Puerto Rico of the Arctic, plus make all of you instant millionaires. So this idea that Trump is going to be sending in the Marines or the 101st Airborne to invade Greenland is preposterous. It's a lie. It's more propaganda and hysteria. But tell that to the Europeans. The Prime Minister of Denmark yesterday addressed the people of Denmark and the people of Europe. And her answer, and it was an ultimatum, if Trump makes a move on Greenland, it will be the end of NATO. Okay, so after the very successful nighttime raid in Caracas in Venezuela that toppled and captured Maduro and his drug trafficking wife, Katie Miller, the wife of Stephen Miller, President Trump's top advisor, she was also a former member of the Trump administration herself, she went on X and put out a tweet of the map of Greenland emblazoned with the U.S. flag, with the American flag, and the message soon. In other words, it'll be ours very, very soon. This started an immediate panic in the halls of power, whether it was in the capital of Denmark, Copenhagen, whether it was in Italy, in Rome, in Berlin, in Paris, in London, all the way to Poland in Warsaw. And the Europeans now issued a joint statement, almost unprecedented, signed by Germany, France, Britain, Italy, Poland, and Spain. And, of course, Denmark. Telling the Trump administration, in fact, giving them an ultimatum that if Trump continues to push for the annexation of Greenland, that the Europeans will stand and do stand shoulder to shoulder with Denmark, that they will not allow the United States to take Greenland, that they will consider this a hostile act of aggression. And the Prime Minister of Denmark then addressed the country yesterday and addressed all of Europe, saying that Trump's decision to go ahead and should he annex Greenland would result, quote unquote, in the end of NATO. In other words, the Europeans say that this will blow up the alliance. This will be considered an act of aggression by the United States against a fellow NATO member, and that the alliance would then dissolve, and that the United States then would have no more friends, no more allies left in all of Europe. And then the Europeans said, you go ahead with this, we are going to kick every American soldier, every American military base. In fact, they're going to confiscate the bases and kick every soldier, every U.S. soldier, troop out of Europe. In other words, NATO would be finished, our historic alliance with the Europeans would be finished, and that this would usher in now a completely new era where America would be alone in the world in the Western Hemisphere, but completely detached from the European Union, from NATO, and from Europe. Now, let me just play this clip from Stephen Miller. Miller was then pressed on this very issue about Greenland and the United States and the massive diplomatic blowback. And this was Stephen Miller's response with Fake Tapper on CNN. And I think he makes an excellent point. A, what right does what right does Denmark have to run Greenland? By what right? By what right do they control Greenland? The age of imperialism is supposed to be over, European imperialism. The age of colonizing territories is supposed to be over. This is up for the people of Greenland to decide if they want to be independent, if they want to be part of the United States. So by what right does Denmark now claim that they can decide the future of Greenland? And then you think without the United States, NATO is viable? Good luck. Without American money, American missiles, American might, American power, you think you guys can defend yourselves and say stand up to Vladimir Putin? Good luck. Good luck. Roll cut 4D, Mike.
By what right does Denmark assert control over Greenland? What is the basis of their territorial claim? What is their basis of having Greenland as a colony of Denmark? The United States is the power of NATO. For the United States to secure the Arctic region, to protect and defend NATO and NATO interests, obviously Greenland should be part of the United States. And so that's a conversation that we're going to have as a country. That's a process we're going to have as a community of nations.
So now Tapper keeps pressing him, saying, well, hold on now, but have you taken the use of military force off the table? Or are you saying that the United States will actually militarily invade Greenland and forcibly annex it? Listen now to Stephen Miller's response. Roll cut 4E, Mike.
Take it off the table that the U.S. would use military force to seize Greenland. You can't take it off the table.
Jake, I understand you're trying very hard to, which again, is your job. I respect it. It's great to get exactly the headline, right? That catchy headline.
I'm trying to get an answer to the question.
That says Miller refuses to rule out the United States should have Greenland as part of the United States. There's no need to even think or talk about this in the context that you're asking of a military operation. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland.
He's completely right. He's absolutely completely right. The Europeans are blowing this way out of proportion. The media, as usual, is blowing this way out of proportion. But no, let me put it on the table. We're going to buy Greenland. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask all of you, the great audience of Kuhner Country, the tip of the spear of the MAGA movement, the heart and soul of MAGA. Should the United States acquire Greenland? Is President Trump right? Do you support him? Should Greenland become a part of the United States, whether the 51st state, probably doesn't have enough population for that, but whatever, a territory of the United States, like Puerto Rico or the Virgin Islands or Guam. In other words, should we take over Greenland? Do you support it? Or do you think it's not worth the massive diplomatic blowback and the potential risk of rupturing and really destroying, collapsing NATO? So the Prime Minister of Denmark addressed the country yesterday. She addressed all of Europe as well. This, by the way, is the front page story in every single capital in Europe. The Europeans now are losing their minds over this. And according to her, she says that this is an act of aggression by the United States against Denmark, and that if the United States goes forward and annexes Greenland, then this would mean, quote unquote, the end of NATO. In fact, she says it would be the end of everything. The end of the rules-based order that has been created since the end of the Second World War. It would be the end of the NATO alliance. It would be the end of Europe's partnership with the United States. And it was in the wake of that comment that this joint statement was issued to the United States, to the world, but especially to Washington, to Trump, to Rubio, to Pete Hegseth, and to the and to the State Department, signed by France, Britain, Germany, Italy, Poland, and Spain, along with Denmark, saying that if the United States was to go ahead and acquire Greenland, then NATO will end. It will dissolve the NATO alliance. It will be the end of it. And furthermore, the Europeans then will seize U.S. military bases that we have in Bulgaria, in Romania, in Germany, in places all across the continent. And they will expel all American soldiers, all American forces from Europe. Essentially, the alliance between Europe and the United States would be over. Finished, finito. Now, let me just give you my honest opinion, and then I want to go right to the phone lines. 617-266-6868 is the number. Number one, and I don't want to repeat myself, but it bears repeating. No one is talking about sending in the Marines or sending in an invasion force to militarily invade and annex Greenland. We want to buy Greenland. We want to purchase Greenland. The way, for example, we purchased Alaska. Okay? When we bought Alaska from the Russians, by the way, for a song, it was one of the greatest deals ever. It wasn't the end of the world. It didn't mean now a Pax Americana. It didn't mean now that you have Hitler marching across the globe. Relax. People buy territory all the time. That's number one. Okay? Number two, it would be great for Greenland. Frankly, they would be crazy not to take the offer. If you've ever been to Greenland or seen pictures of Greenland or read descriptions of Greenland, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but it is basically covered in ice, covered in snow, engulfed in darkness for about 8-9 months of the year. Barely 57,000 people live in it, and that's pretty much all of them in the capital, Nuuk, N-U-U-K. They have no industry what to speak of. Denmark has done nothing for Greenland except keep them hooked on welfare with a couple of subsidy payments. But you look at their homes, you look at the fact that they can barely keep the lights on. By the way, their homes are very small. Their standard of living is so much lower than ours. You let us take it over, and we are going to develop it. We're going to build it. We're going to modernize it, and probably put a cash offer for every single citizen in Greenland and make them fabulously rich. So frankly, and you'd have the full protection of the United States. And we would develop all of the reserves of minerals and rare earth that they have underneath and share that wealth with the people of Greenland. I mean, for the people of Greenland, this is a no-brainer. Okay? Now, as for Denmark, blank off. No, I'm serious. Blank off. The prime minister is a leftist. She's a social democrat. She's a hardcore feminist. She's a hardcore anti-American hater. You have no right over Greenland. Let the people of Greenland decide. Let them hold a referendum on whether they want to be independent from Denmark, or after they become independent, do they want to join the United States? After we put together a package and an offer. Denmark, Miller is completely right. Denmark has no ultimate basis to claim Greenland. Denmark is a holdover from the European imperial powers from an era that is dead and buried. So don't tell me now that all of a sudden Greenland is sacrosanct and must belong to Denmark for ad infinitum, forever. You're right. They're protecting it with dog sleds, for God's sake. I mean, it's a joke. The Russians covet it. The Chinese covet it. They want what's underneath the ice. And not just that they want the rare earth. They want to dominate the Arctic because they can see all that oil and natural gas in the Arctic. That's why they want to kick us out of the Arctic so they can control and dominate it. Greenland takes care of both. It gives us a great supply of rare earth minerals, and it blocks China and Russia from dominating the Arctic. And frankly, if the Europeans are so worried about Vladimir Putin, as they keep saying they are, then don't you want us to have Greenland? Because then that counters and contains Russia and China, who is Russia's biggest backer, which gives us a better ability to protect all of Europe. So if they were serious about Vladimir Putin, if they really did fear him, they would welcome this move. Now, to the threat that this would end NATO, if only. Honestly, if only. I'm sorry, but someone has to speak the truth. As I said on X last night, and I want to repeat it because it bears repeating, these European elites are a bunch of ingrates. I've never seen ingrates like these Europeans. Okay, the elites, the establishment, their political class. So let me get this straight. We protect you for over 70 years. We bail you out in World War I. We bail you out in World War II. We save you from Soviet communism during the entire Cold War. You ride our backs, freeloading off of our money, our manpower, our military, our might, as you guys build up these lavish welfare states and giving your people freebies. And now you're threatening to kick us out of Europe? You're threatening to end the alliance? I'm sorry. We are NATO. Without us, NATO is nothing. Without us, you think Germany can hold off Russia? You think the French can hold off Russia? You think the Brits or the Italians, or with all due respect, the Spaniards, you can hold off Russia? So what you're telling us is, if I'm hearing the Europeans correct, you don't need us anymore. According to you, if you can kick all our bases out and all our troops out, well, then okay. No, really, okay. Then you guys defend yourselves, and I'm more than happy to save all the money and stop you guys from leeching off of us as you've done now for decades. Okay. Let me ask all of you, should the United States, in your view, make Greenland a part of the United States? Is Trump right? Do we need Greenland? Do you want Greenland? That's number one. Number two, what do you make now of the Europeans, and in particular, the leading countries in Europe, essentially giving us an ultimatum, issuing an ultimatum, that if we go ahead and annex Greenland, then they will consider this an act of aggression, and that this will mean the end of NATO. Is it time for us to pull out of NATO? The Europeans are now threatening to kick all of our troops and bases out of Europe. Is it time now to let the Europeans finally defend themselves? And let's see how well they do without our money, our missiles, our troops, our might. And let's see how they do on their own. To me, I'm watching this and I'm like, so let me get this straight. If we take Greenland, you're saying we don't have to defend you anymore? And this is your idea of a threat? Look, I am so disgusted by what came out of Europe yesterday. That joint statement and that threat that they issued, that ultimatum, that I'm like, why are we protecting them? We have spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not trillions of dollars over the years, protecting, fighting, and dying for the Europeans. And this is their gratitude? So we now can't do something that's in our national interest? And again, we're going to be paying for it? We're going to purchase Greenland? We're going to make them wealthier than they've ever been before? And because we want to do something that benefits us, that we need for our national and economic security, all of a sudden now, you guys are telling us it's time to end NATO and kick us out of the continent? You know what? We've been Uncle Sucker for too long. This is not the response of friends. This is not the response of allies. This is the response of a bunch of treasonous ingrates who for decades have been living in luxury off of our backs. They spend practically nothing on their military, nothing on their self-defense. It's all us, the U.S. taxpayer. Look at Ukraine. Almost most of the money that's gone to defend Ukraine is coming from us. Most of the military hardware, the missiles, the drones, the military equipment that has kept that country alive, it wasn't the Europeans, it was us. And it's in their backyard, not our backyard. And this is the thanks that we get? No. I'm sorry. Enough is enough. So let me get this straight with the Europeans. I'm talking about the elites now. Okay, not people on the street. With their leaders. So let me get this straight. Unless the relationship is always one way, unless it's nothing but us benefiting you, when we want something a little bit for ourselves, suddenly now there's no friendship, there's no relationship. So, okay, let's call their bluff. You guys say you're going to pull out of NATO, that this is going to be the end of NATO, that you're going to kick us out of Europe? Fine, go ahead. I dare you. I dare you. Who's going to defend you? The Germans? The French? You know what? Keep your Muslims. Keep your Muslims. Because that's what we're going to have to defend. You guys from yourselves again. Again. So, no, if I'm President Trump, here's the counter. We're going to buy Greenland. You don't like it? Blank off. It means the end of NATO. Bye-bye. No, don't kick our bases out. We're going to take them back. We're going to pull out of Europe. You're on your own now. Auf Wiedersehen, as the Germans would say. And have a nice day. Larry in Arkansas. Agree? Disagree? Larry in Arkansas. Thanks for holding, Larry, and welcome.
Well, good morning, Jeff. Welcome back.
Great to be back, Larry.
There's a phrase I use a lot. Don't threaten me with a good time. Now,
that's how I felt yesterday, Larry, honestly, when I read all this. The huffing and the puffing from the Europeans. I'm like, oh, please, go ahead, do it. Please, I'm begging you. Please.
Now, there's always some back and forth on Trump playing 3D chess and all this stuff. But if I recall correctly, there were some lawmakers about a month ago, before they went on their fifth or sixth vacation, that they were trying to pass a law that President Trump could not pull troops out of European nations. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Yes. They're going to kick us out for us? Isn't that what Trump wants in the first place?
Well, Larry, look, let me ask you this. As a man who served in our Air Force 5 years, okay, a veteran, how do you feel? Should we, let's just look at NATO. To me, it's all on the table now. Should we still be part of NATO? Should we pull out of NATO? Should we stop defending Europe? I mean, let me just, you know this, Larry, but let me just state the obvious. Germany's a very wealthy country. France, Italy, Denmark. I mean, these are all first world countries. They choose to spend most of their money on welfare. They don't have to. They could be spending 4 or 5% of their GDP on the military. So what I'm saying is, why are we the ones footing the bill, footing the tab, and again, we do the fighting and the dying to protect some of the richest countries in the world? Why don't the European... I mean, this is not 1946, 1947 after the war. This is now 2025. So why are we protecting the Europeans? They should be protecting themselves. It's time for us to come home and take care of business here. We're protecting the world. We need to be protecting ourselves. Larry, am I wrong? Agree, disagree?
I wholeheartedly agree. Think of it as like you have kids, right? You brought them into the world and you nurture them and you take care of them. 18 years old, you boot them in the butt and said, okay, you're on your own. we got brought into World War II. There's going to be arguments that the military-industrial complex wanted it, whatever, right? We didn't start the war. We finished the war, right? They asked us to come in. They asked for our help. Now, a bunch of stuff got broken. We broke Japan. So we agreed to protect Japan from other dangers until they could come back. I mean, I know we're talking Europe, but Japan's a great example. Japan is rich and thriving. There is no need for us to protect them anymore. They can do a pretty good job of protecting themselves. Same with Europe. And you're right. It's like a bunch of spoiled children. I've never seen more ungrateful people in my life. We go to war for them. You're right. We've died for them. And they don't want to do anything in return. They're like, keep going, keep doing this, keep helping us, but don't touch anything, And it's just like this whole Venezuela thing. There's a Venezuelan who's made a great point. They said, no blood for oil. You're going in there for the oil. And he's like, what do you think Russia, Iran, and China are trying to do? They're trying to take our oil. Do you think they came here for our food, our cuisine? At least when America does it, they do it benevolently. I don't know if that's the exact word for it, but we don't usually go in there. We've never gone in there and try to take anything over by force, slaughter people, slaughter cultures just to get their goods. That's not our way. But now we want to offer Greenland citizens good money, because you're right, they're mostly poor. And Denmark's upset about it because why? Because they're going to lose control of something?
Well, you're right. And just to add, I can only add to what you're saying, Larry. They're going to lose control over something that, how do I say this? They're not doing anything for Greenland. In other words, like, how do you talk to the Greenlanders? One of the reasons why they all want to be independent is they're like, well, Denmark does nothing for us. I mean, yeah, they give us a few bucks here or there, basically just to keep the lights on. But they don't invest. They don't want to develop. They don't even really protect us. Trump was kind of half joking, but he was half serious. They put in a few dog sleds. That's their idea of security. And so the Greenlanders are like, and you're colonizing us. Why? For what? Why should we put up with this? So, no, and look, Larry, you mentioned Japan, and you're completely right, by the way. The Japanese are now more than capable of defending themselves. But I got to say this about the Asians. I'm sorry. I have to say it. The Japanese are grateful. And you think about it. We dropped 2 nuclear bombs on them. I mean, we broke them. We broke their back. But we helped rebuild them. And we've been protecting them from communist China. And they're grateful. Thank you. The South Koreans are grateful. I could run down the list. They're grateful that we're protecting them. But these Europeans, especially the Western Europeans, this is unbelievable. The lack of gratitude, the arrogance, the disrespect, frankly, the hatred that these European elites have for the United States. And I know because every time I go to Europe and I talk to one of these so-called sophisticated Europeans, I'm putting this in air quotes, all they ever do is run down America. Oh, fast food. Oh, the McDonald's. Oh, Burger King. Oh, this, that, your music, this and that. I'm like, number one, if our fast food is so bad, how come all I do is I see McDonald's all over France or all over England or all over Deutschland in Germany? That's number one. If our culture is so bad, how come you guys, you can't get enough of our music, our blue jeans, our food? So that's number one. Number two, blank off, man. You would all be speaking German if it wasn't for us. And after that, you'd all be speaking Russian if it wasn't for us. We're always bailing you out. Even in the Balkans in the 1990s. You think it was the Europeans that stopped the slaughter? No, it was America. So even right there in the heart of Europe, when there's a genocide, an ethnic cleansing taking place, did the Europeans, put their blood and treasure on the line? Niet. America. It's always America. And now when we want a little something for ourselves to protect us, to keep us strong into the 21st century, all of a sudden, we're going to kick you out. We don't need you. Bye. Okay. If you don't need us, good for you. Good. Then you know what? You've been lying to us about Ukraine for the last 4 years. Because if you guys can defend yourselves and you guys don't need American troops and American bases, then you guys take care of Putin. You guys take care of Ukraine. You guys take care of your own security. So if I'm President Trump, I go all in. You know, just the chips, all in. Call their bluff. So we're buying Greenland, and you're what? It's the end of NATO? Is that what yeah? You want to end NATO? You want to? Let's go. My hand, your hand. Let's call. Let me call. And let's go ahead. Call their bluff. But Larry, look, this is emotional for me. This is visceral. The hubris, the disrespect, the arrogance, the hatred, the anti-Americanism. You go to France and you see how many American graves are buried there. How many soldiers died to liberate just France, never mind the rest of Europe. And this is how they pay us back? Larry, there are some things among so-called friends you don't do. This is one of them. I'm not going to forget this. I'm not. Larry, thank you very much for that call, as always. Agree, disagree. I say we should have Greenland. It should be a part of the United States. We should buy it. We should acquire it. And if the Europeans say it means the end of NATO, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Agree, disagree. Vince in Deutschland. Speaking of Germany, thanks for holding, Vince, and welcome.
Thanks, Jeff.
Hi, Vince.
You stole my thunder, man. That was like a 60-minute diatribe. You covered all the bases. You made every point succinctly and perfectly, especially when you pulled Alaska into it, because what were the Russians doing with Alaska when we bought it from them? You know? And Greenland, what have the Danes done with Greenland? It's like they're white trash, right? It's like their shanty on the edge of town or something, you know? The place, it only has I think 50,000 people total in the whole island. And our involvement in Greenland goes way back to World War II. We had troops stationed there. It was a waypoint, that in Iceland, to get supplies over to Europe. And then it was part of NORAD. Remember the air defense system?
Yes.
We had stations up there in Greenland and stuff. So this is nothing new. The way I see it, we should acquire it. If we have to buy it, buy it. But make it a territory like it would be Puerto Rico or even Guam or Samoa, for that matter, you know? Because really, that's what we want it for. We want it for defense, because there's a realignment going on. If people have been paying attention, this is a global realignment that's happening that you're watching right before your eyes. China's carving out their sphere. Russia's carving out their sphere, and the United States is reasserting itself on the global stage. And let me just touch on the Maduro thing. You know, I've been retired from the military 5 years. I was in special operations for 20 years. And what I saw on Saturday night was absolutely breathtaking. It was amazing how they went in there completely unscathed, neutralized all air defenses. They went in there hard. They went right into the compound. They killed 40 people? They didn't lose one person, Jeff. They didn't lose one person. It's a testament to what the United States is. I think more than anything, it put it all on full display for Xi, for Putin, showing you want to mess with the USA? This is what we do. The Chinese could have never pulled off a mission like that. No way. No way. What say you, Jeff?
Oh, Vince, you're dead on. Absolutely dead on. No, look, there's no question. The Chinese couldn't do it. The Russians couldn't do it. No one else could do it. No one. Vince, since you're in Germany, if you don't mind, I want to just go back to the whole Greenland issue. Friedrich Merz, the Chancellor of Germany, he's making a big deal now about Greenland, saying this is going to end the relationship with NATO, end the relationship between Europe and the United States. What's the feeling like in Germany among ordinary Germans? Are they as anti-American and anti-Trump as their leaders are, as the political class is? Or is this only at the establishment level, or is this even on the streets? How far is this anti-Americanism in Germany?
It relies on the American military community. So my neighborhood that I live in, I live out in town, and there about half the neighborhood's vacant. You know, I live in like a subdivision. Half of it's vacant because we're pulling back forces, you know, and people are feeling it. And they don't like that because a lot of these people, these are second homes for them, and they provide them an income. You know what I mean? But I would say on the geopolitical level, I mean, what was NATO's purpose? Its stated purpose long ago. It was to keep the United States in Europe, to keep the Russians out of Europe, and to keep the Germans down in Europe, right? Because of the two world wars. That was the stated purpose of NATO, you know, unofficially, right? Unofficially. So if we pull out of there and they take their bases, I mean, I think
Vince, that wasn't us. That was something happened on Vince's end, and hopefully he'll call back. But his phone just dropped. But no, just to finish what he's saying, and he's completely right. Look, and I said this in the 1990s. People looked at me like I had 6 heads, but I'm going to repeat it now because I think the American public is maybe ready now for this. What was NATO created for in 1949? And I support, in 1949, it was a brilliant idea. And it worked. For 5 decades, it worked. It was to keep the Soviet Union from overrunning the rest of Europe. Remember, they had the Soviet Union, they invaded Eastern Europe, they had the Warsaw Pact. So it was to keep the Soviets, the Russians, the Soviet communists out of Central and Western Europe. Well, the Soviet Union disintegrated. It's gone. The Warsaw Pact is gone. We won. Thank the Lord. We won the Cold War. So to me, NATO's purpose had been served. And that's why I kept saying, okay, it's now time to dissolve NATO. Our purpose was to contain and then defeat the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union has been defeated. It is no longer there. And all of those nations are now free that were under its heel, under its control and occupation. And now it's time for the United States, because we were exhausted after 5 years of the Cold War. We needed to focus on America. Instead, we kept NATO going. And then we kept expanding it right up to Russia's doorstep. Even though people were warning, you do this, you're going to anger the Russians. You're going to inflame the Russians. Well, here we are in 2025. I think NATO is obsolete. Who needs NATO? Why do we need NATO? Poland can defend itself. Germany, if they want to spend money on their military, they can ultimately defend themselves. So why are we going to be there defending the Europeans? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, Wednesday, 7:20-ish. You know what that means. You've been asking for it. You've been missing it. It's been weeks now. Take it away, Mike.
And now, America's favorite game show, where you get to decide on the Kuhner Report. This is Truth or Troll.
Today's entry for Truth or Troll comes from President Trump speaking to reporters on Air Force One when he responds to claims that he kidnapped now former president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro.
Any kind of peacekeeping, I think Americans are very...
It depends on what happens. It depends a little bit on the new administration, if you want to call it
So
that.
if you see that pushback from Rodriguez and ultimately...
Well, I don't think it was pushback. I think that,
She called it...
You hear a different person than I hear.
Really? So you have spoken with her?
We talked to them, yeah.
Oh, you did speak with her?
They've been very good.
Because she called it kidnapping of Maduro.
It's all right. It's not a bad term.
So kidnapping President Maduro it's not a bad term to use. So what do you think? Is Trump just telling the truth here, and he doesn't think it's that bad of a term, or is he just trolling?
Like typical Trump, Mike, I think he's a bit of both. It's like he's, yeah, fine. You want to call it a kidnapping, call it a kidnapping. Doesn't bother me. I think what he really means to say was an abduction, which they did. They abducted him and his crazy wife. And I think that's what he really means. But no, I think ultimately he's okay. I mean, yeah, he's kind of needling the press and the Democrats a little bit.
And because an abduction is so much better, right?
Yeah, abduction is such a nicer, cleaner word.
Is it though?
Well, think about it. You abduct somebody, it just means you've captured somebody. But a kidnapping implies you're holding that person for ransom.
It kind of seems synonymous to me.
And a ransom, well, we're not holding him for ransom. We want him in jail for the rest of his life. We're not going to take any money for the guy. But no, in the end, truth or troll, I would go with truth, personally. But let me ask the audience, do you think when Trump said he's okay with saying that Maduro was kidnapped, is it A, truth, he means it, he's serious, he's okay with calling it a kidnapping? Or B, he's just, again, having some fun, needling the media, needling the Democrats, and he's just trolling them. A, truth, B, troll. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. And of course, you can always vote via X. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhner. Bob in Marblehead. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Great program. So a couple of points. One, this whole situation with Europe, it reminds me of spoiled brats. They owe us quite a bit. And instead of TDS, Trump Derangement System, I would coin ADS, America Deranged
Derangement Syndrome.
Syndrome. Yeah. Because they are cutting their own throats. And if Trump was smart, or one of his crew, they should add up all of the money that we spend. And I was stationed in Italy, in the Navy, and I know that a lot of the local economies in all of the NATO countries depend on the military. Add it all up and say, you want us out? We're out of here, and we're taking X dollars. And that should hit them right in the face. I just can't believe it. They're spoiled brats. And especially all of the troops and all of the sacrifices we've made, the century. And I'm just appalled. I'm appalled. I'm Italian descent. I'm appalled at Italy would do it. I'm just, beside myself. But, hey, if they want to play like that, we'll play with it, and let them defend themselves, and keep them in their room. We got take their allowance away until they behave, or at least be polite in a diplomatic sense.
Bob, let me ask you this, and you may disagree with me, but I'm just curious. Do you think a lot of this has to do with Europe's, I'm talking about their elites, obviously, deep inferiority complex regarding the United States? For, a millennia, 1,000 years, they were the center of the world. They were the center of the West, the center of civilization. They had the great empires. And now, it's been a while, they're no longer. They're a two-bit player. They're dependent on us. We're the center of the action. We're the world's last remaining superpower. Do the Europeans in many ways resent us because deep down they're jealous and envious? Is that what's driving a lot of this?
Yeah, absolutely. Ask the common folks in these countries and see what they would say. But yeah, they're just jealous. They're like kids. I just can't believe it.
Oh, you're absolutely right. They're like spoiled brats. Okay, it's amazing. We're an hour and a half, actually an hour and 33 minutes, if you want to be technical, into the show, and so far, not a single caller, and frankly, not even a single texter, has actually addressed the question of the day. Really, the question of the hour, which is, should the United States acquire Greenland? Now, just objectively, just to stand back for a second, whatever your position is on the issue, if we were to acquire Greenland, if Trump is able to pull this off, this is history in the making. This would be a world historic event. It would make us it would first of all expand the United States considerably. Greenland is the largest island in the world. It would cement our position in the North Atlantic. Frankly, it would make us a great North Atlantic power. It would also make us the dominant power in the Arctic. It would cement our dominance in the Western Hemisphere. It's almost the logical culmination of the Monroe Doctrine. This would have been, several centuries in the making. On the Pacific, you have Alaska, and now in the Atlantic, you have Greenland. I mean, this is it. So this would go down as a world historical event. It would change the United States, our destiny forever, I think for the good. But, now it's the North Atlantic, it's the Arctic. We would have to defend Greenland. We would get all the resources and the mineral earth, rare earth minerals that Greenland has. And it would transform us into an Arctic power. I think pretty much guarantee our position to tap into almost all of that oil and natural gas at the bottom of the Arctic. We could project power all over the Western Hemisphere, and if needed be, all over Europe. It would strengthen our hand considerably against China and Russia. It would be a massive blow against both the Russians and the Chinese. I mean, this would go down, and this is history textbooks, 100 years, 200 years from now. So this would be a huge, stage or chapter in the development of the United States. Now, why are you going on about this? Because nobody's giving me a yes or a no. I mean, it's just, now, I don't know if it's because people are just, we want it. It should be ours. And what are we talking about? Or people are on the fence, or they're not sure, or everybody's against it, but they don't want to call in. Whether you're for or against, I want to hear from you. Please, 617-266-6868. Now, this is the poll question, and I'd like for as many of you to respond as possible, because I want to really take, almost like a poll, I want to take the temperature of this audience, because this is the heart and soul of MAGA. So I want to know, where does the Trump base, where does MAGA stand on this issue? So here is the question. Should the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Should Greenland be the 51st state? Now, maybe in terms of population, it can't. You have to have a certain population threshold. So what we're really asking is, let's not get hung up on 51st state. Should Greenland be part of the United States? A territory? Okay, whatever. Should the United States acquire Greenland? Let's just put it that way. A, yes. B, no. Yes, Greenland should be ours. I support it, Jeff. B, no. This is imperialism. This is not our business. We shouldn't acquire it. This is going to lead to too many negative consequences with NATO and the Europeans. Whatever the reason is. No, Jeff. Niet. So, A yes, B no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. And of course, I'm always active on X. You can vote via X. My handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhner. Oh, there is that. Okay, no, I know with Arizona it was. So you're saying there's no population requirement. It could be a 51st state. Yeah, I think though, Sandy, I think initially they want it as a territory. I think that's the plan. And okay, I got you. Yeah, Sandy says there's no bar, so if we want to make it the 51st state, we can. But I think the plan is make it a territory first, obviously, and then eventually it could become a state. But anyway, should it be the 51st state? Should it be part of the United States? Andrea in Rockport. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Andrea.
I was just going to say, look at the illusion of power these European leaders have after putting just a few hundred innocent people in jail for speaking their mind. I mean, what is wrong with these people? They're called illusions of grandeur. I mean, they're talking about putting troops on the ground in Russia, and they're going to draft their young people to go there.
In Ukraine,
now they're getting rid of U.S. troops.
Britain and France. Yeah, Britain and France say they're going to put bases to protect Ukraine. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Anyway, keep going, please, Andrea.
They think they're going to rule the world. They're just like a bunch of, clowns. I think Larry was right. It's comical. I mean, what are they doing? I mean, it just seems so silly. If they don't give Greenland to us, China or Russia's going to take it. Now, they hate Russia. They can't stand Russia, which I don't know why, because they're becoming like Russia, throwing people in jail for no reason. So I just think the whole thing's ridiculous. I don't know where they're getting this idea they have all this power. It's just really funny.
Andrea, how would you vote on the poll? Are you for or against us taking Greenland?
I think we should take Greenland because otherwise Russia or China will get it.
Let me just press you a little bit. I just want to know how committed you are. Say we don't buy them. Say the Greenlanders say no deal, or Denmark says we're not going to take any offer. We don't care how much money you put on the table. Should we then use the military option? How far do you think we should go to get Greenland?
I don't think we should use the military option.
In other words, it's got to be voluntary, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm with you, Andrea. My sentiments exactly. Andrea, thank you so much for that call. Derek in Brighton. Thanks for holding, Derek, and welcome.
Yes, I like your show.
Thank you, Derek.
My take on this is that if Denmark is so against Trump acquiring Greenland, why didn't they make a deal themselves decades ago when they when they colonized that island? That
island. Yeah, it's an island.
How come they didn't develop it themselves all these decades? They're crying, and I mean, doesn't the United States pay most of the freight when it comes to NATO anyway?
Yes.
It pays a greater gross domestic product, a certain percentage of its gross domestic product for NATO, and while the other European countries, hardly pay a pittance. I mean,
Derek, to put it bluntly, without us, there is no NATO. Literally, there's no NATO. We are NATO.
Right. I say forget NATO. If Trump makes a deal with the Greenlanders, and says, "Hey, let's make a deal," and Denmark cries about it, I say, well, the hell with it. You want to check out the U.S. forces in there that protects their border.
No, that's right. Well, and by the way, we have a big military base already on Greenland. Like, I'm just saying, we're already de facto protecting Greenland. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. This is from 617. Jeff, you are correct when you say the problem is the European elite. I think one of the reasons Trump is making this move on Greenland now is because he knows the people have had it with the EU. They're tired of the so-called climate crisis narrative, being told that they can't farm anymore, the Muslim invasion of country after country in Europe, taxation up the wazoo. The European Union is dying. You know, that's a very good point, 617. There's no love anymore for the EU among the citizens of Europe. For the elites, of course, yes. For the World Economic Forum, no question. But that's because they're living off of the fat of the land. They're the ones living off all that taxpayer money that they're generating by, through their suffering citizens. But outside of their corrupt political class, the elites, most ordinary Europeans now have had it. The climate crisis has destroyed their standard of living. They're pushing all of the Europeans to get off fossil fuels. They're paying massive costs now for energy. It's wiped out the middle class of Germany and France and England, so many of these countries. They're blocking people from farming. It's causing even higher food prices, but also now slowly but surely even food issues, food shortages. You've got the Muslims now invading France, the Netherlands, Germany, England, Italy, Denmark. Speaking of Denmark, so the EU and the taxes are through the roof. Most EU countries now, there's about a 70% of your income goes to taxes. I mean, it's one of the most highly regulated, highly taxed jurisdictions in the world. So, yeah, the EU is dying. To me, it's an evil empire. The Soviet Union was an evil empire. The European Union, to me, is the successor to the Soviet Union. It's an evil empire. And I am all for I want to get rid of NATO and get rid of the EU. They are the two key, that and the World Economic Forum. Those are the three pillars of the globalists and of globalism in general. It is the triumvirate, the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. EU, NATO, the World Economic Forum. And so, to me, let's end NATO by pulling out of it. Let the European Union collapse of its own weight. And let's smash the World Economic Forum. And if you do that, the forces of globalism have been defeated and destroyed. But that's me. So why should we be protecting the evil empire that is the European Union? If the Europeans say they want us out, great. Thank you. Let me just read one more. I got to keep my family happy. This is from my sister Jennifer out in Tucson, Arizona. Jeff, we are NATO. I don't care what the Europeans do or say. Trump should pull out of NATO. We don't need them. They need us. Bingo. Bingo. Paul in South Boston. Thanks for holding, Paul, and welcome.
That was good, Jeff. Right before I come on, you steal the word right out of my mouth, man. I wanted to say that it is the globalists, the World Economic Forum, George Soros, that whole organization has their hands all over this. What you're seeing is the leaders of these countries who are actually socialists, they're communist. And although they get elected, but now we're really seeing who they really are. They don't want the United States to enhance its economic influence in Northern Europe. They don't want, because they see this as the beginning. That's why they are protesting it. They have no other reason, because there is no other reason. What is the reason for us to not economically advantageous for us in Europe. But they don't want that. They don't want borders. They don't want anything. They are just. It is part of jealousy and resentment, but we are starting to get into their territory. So they really don't like us. But I bet if you put it to a vote for the citizens of each one of these countries, I'm sure you'd come up with a different result. I'm sure they'd say, yeah, let's have the United States. Now, because these people worm their way into power, with their open borders, their socialism, and that's what they're really afraid of. And, it's one thing to have it here. They're against anything that's going to be positive for the United States. They'd rather have invasions on our southern border. They'd rather weaken the United States. And that is what it is.
You nailed it. No, you nailed it. That's what they want. They want to see a weak, prostrate United States. That's what they want to see. They want to see us really on our knees, economically bankrupt, our borders wide open, unlimited immigration to break our country. And what they see under Trump is the exact opposite. Our border now is completely secure. We're starting to finally get rid of these illegals. We're starting to deport them. He's now putting in tariffs that are reshoring industry, manufacturing, jobs. He's rebuilding our industrial strength. And you're right. Look, Paul, think about it just from an objective point of view. If you live in Europe, or let's even make it even less geopolitical than that, in your neighborhood, you rely upon a very powerful home to protect you. It's just the way it is. Now, this home wants to add another piece of territory, some more land, that will make it even stronger so it can protect you even better. Why would you be against it? Like, just from a logical point of view, you're completely right. And you're right. Most, I believe, Europeans on the streets, ordinary Europeans, you ask them, they go, of course America should acquire Greenland. Because what they keep telling us is they're afraid of Putin. They're petrified of the Russians. That's all. You go to Europe. Look, Grace is very good friends with a friend of hers in Italy. She says all the Italians talk about, and she lives in Rome, is how they fear Putin. They fear Putin. Today, Ukraine, tomorrow, Rome. Today, Ukraine, tomorrow, Paris. Today, Ukraine, tomorrow, Berlin. So apparently the Europeans are always petrified of Putin. Okay, this checks the Russians in the Arctic. Frankly, it pushes them out of the Arctic. It strengthens the United States. It enables us now to protect the North Atlantic, counteract the Russians, and give us more ability, more capacity, more wealth to defend Europe against Russia. So if they really believed what they were saying, they'd be saying, put an offer on the table. Let's make this thing happen. A stronger America is a stronger West. A stronger West is a stronger Europe. Let's go. Instead, you're right. The EU, and I remember I published an essay in a magazine. I was at a think tank for a while, long story short, and it was a brilliant essay by John O'Sullivan, who at the time was a writer for National Review. And it was an examination into the origins of the EU and the real goals and objectives of the EU. If you look at the history of the European Union, it literally was created to be an anti-American bloc. It was created not to counteract or contain Russia or China or Iran. No. It was literally the idea, the brainchild of far left Europeans who wanted to bring down the United States. They wanted to break up our power on the world. So from the very beginning, the European Union was an anti-American project. And his point in his essay was, why is our State Department encouraging more European integration? Why is one, whether Republican or Democrat, why do we keep supporting the EU? It's a dagger aimed at our heart. Well, as you nailed it, Paul, now we know the truth. It's the three pillars of the New World Order. One of the three, the EU, NATO, and, of course, the World Economic Forum, i.e. George Soros and Klaus Schwab. So a stronger America, now we're starting to realize for the European elites, that's not something they want. So, okay, fine. Then you guys right. You see, without us, the Europeans are finished. They've been milking us white. They have been milking us dry, bleeding us white now for decade after decade after decade. And now the fact that the United States under Trump is saying no more. No more. They hate us that we're telling them you got to pay more for your defense. They hate us when J.D. Vance goes to Munich, and God bless him, and tells the European leaders to their face, you are censoring your own people. You are not a democracy if you're putting people in jail simply because they're criticizing your own governments. That's not what you do in a free society. You don't jail people because they disagree with you. You don't censor people because you don't like what they have to say. You're no longer democracies. You're becoming authoritarians like the old Soviet Union. He told them the truth to their face. And that's why they hate Trump. That's why they hate JD. And that's why they're trying to block us now in Greenland. Paul, am I wrong? Final word to you.
No, 100%. Everything you just said, Jefferson, is 1,000% correct. I was a little disappointed in Italy, though. Is it Meloni? She's still the prime minister?
That was the one that shocked me the most, was that Meloni would sign that letter. That, I think, to be fair to her, she was strong-armed by the Germans and the French and the British. Because that's, Italy is in that sphere, and the Brits and the Germans in particular have a lot of money in Italy. So they have a lot of influence in internal Italian politics. But I was disappointed in Meloni because of all of them, I thought she was the one that would have said no. The Germans, yes. Keir Starmer, he's an idiot in Britain, yes. Macron, a double idiot, yes. Spain, it's a socialist government, yes. Poland, I was disappointed because the Poles usually have our backs. So I'm not happy with the Poles. But the one that disappointed me the most was Meloni in Italy. I think Trump's going to have a conversation with her. Just my guess, Paul.
So, Jeff, and like I said, if you press them on this, what is their reason for us not purchasing Greenland? They have none. What is their argument? It's not like we're going to invade and then, be a dictator and, take over the entire Northern Europe area. It has no reason behind it other than the fact that they are true socialists and they do not like the United States to have any sphere of influence in that area. That's economics. And, so they're showing their true colors. But all these people have risen to the powers of prime ministers and presidents of these countries. They've turned their countries, they're back on their heels, and they don't want that, and they have no other reason, and you can tell they don't give it a reason why. It would make no sense.
You nailed it. No, Paul, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. Look, to put it very simply, they're trying to contain us from getting Greenland. That's what this is. They're containing us. It's like containment, but instead against the Russians, right, it's against us. And we're like, why? What's it to you? So what? First of all, it's not to be insulting, but it's a hunk of ice. I know the value of it underneath, but I'm saying on the surface, it's tundra. It's 57,000 people, the whole island. Frankly, most of it is in the capital because it's so cold and it's so dark. It's almost unlivable. It's very hard to live in Greenland. It's like 8-9 months of the year. It's dark, dark, dark. So, and those are indigenous people that live there. They're not even Danes. Not a single Dane wants to live in Greenland. So what I'm saying is, what's it to you? Now, we're going to put a nice cash offer. This is going to be Trump. You're going to, look, hey, you're going to, the Greenlanders are going to see more money than they've ever could possibly imagine. So what's it to you? No, territorial integrity. This is a threat to NATO. How could you do this? One NATO ally annexing territory from another NATO ally. Well, let the people of Greenland decide. It's a colony of Denmark anyway. They don't want to be under Denmark's thumb. There's no discussion about that. There's no debate. So let the people of Greenland have a choice. But you see, now their true colors have been revealed. The Europeans, the EU, the elites. They want to contain us. Well, why do you want to contain us? See, and that's what I find disgusting. I find it disgusting because they're the ones who've been begging us to defend Ukraine. And we can't send them enough money. $200 billion, $300 billion. They wanted $1 trillion from us to defend Ukraine. They want us to send our troops to fight and die against Russia. So you see, they're using us and using us and using us. And now that we want a little something for ourselves, which by the way is going to benefit them too, then all of a sudden, absolutely not. We're going to kick you out. We're going to kick out, not even kick out the bases. If you read the letter, they're going to seize our bases. I swear, they're going to confiscate our bases. We built those bases. Those are our bases. So they're going to confiscate our bases and then kick the troops out of Europe. Okay, well then you don't need us to protect you then. So you've been conning us for I don't know how many decades, and especially the last 4 years. Obviously, you guys aren't that afraid of Putin. If you guys are saying we can, out. No more NATO, out. Well, then you guys can stand up to Putin on your own. So what do you need our money for? You phonies, you frauds, you. Paul, they're a bunch of ingrates, a bunch of backstabbers, and they speak out of both sides of their mouth. And I've had it with them. Paul, thank you so much for that call. Look, I'm sorry. I'm not putting Europe first anymore. I'm putting America first. Greenland, to acquire it, you can disagree with me. I'm just giving you my honest opinion, is in the national interest of the United States. It's good for us. It's good for Greenland. It's good for the North Atlantic. And if they had half a brain, it's good for Europe. But I don't care about that. It's good for us. And that's all that matters to me. Agree, disagree. Diane in Lynn. Thanks for holding, Diane, and welcome.
Oh, no.
Diane?
Oh, I did something to the phone and I lost you there. Sorry. But I just want to say, absolutely.
I thought you were disagreeing with me. I go, wow, that's a really good way to come in. No. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Diane.
What people have been saying right along, what you've been saying right along. Yes, we should absolutely annex it. And it's a win-win. I mean, we get the rare earth minerals, and they get wealth. And, if, say, there's a big, huge storm or something, and they lose half the houses there, we're right in there to rebuild them. We're gonna be protecting them, and it's just a great thing.
Diane, what do you say to the argument, and this is what the Europeans are, the elites again, I always want to say, it's not the people on the ground, it's the leaders. Most of them are left-wing anti-American, but let that go. That we're imperialists, that this is imperialism, that we're bullying Denmark, that we're bullying the people of Greenland, that we're taking territory that we have no right to have. And that in some ways we're no better than Russia and Putin. I'm serious. That's exactly what they're saying. What say you?
That's as silly as when you say you're for the death penalty, and somebody says, "Well, you're being just as bad as the person who committed a murder." No, they're two different things. Not at all. We're going to negotiate with them. Trump will discuss and work out a friendly agreement where everybody wins. It's nonsense. That is absolute nonsense.
Diane, you are not 100. You are 1,000% correct. Diane, thank you so much for that call. Victor in Maryland. Victor, how are you, my friend?
America's talk show host.
Thank you, Victor. Happy New Year, Victor. All the best to you and your family. And I've got to ask you, you're one of the most patriotic callers that we have. You bleed red, white, and blue. You are America first to your core. Does Victor like us taking Greenland, acquiring it, annexing it, however, whatever term you want to use? Should it be a part of the United States? Yes or no?
Absolutely yes, and this is what I would do if I were Trump. I would mail a check on White House stationery to every resident of Greenland. I am giving you maybe $2,000 or $3,000. Spend it on what you need. If I'm lucky enough to get Greenland, this is just the beginning of what money you're going to get.
That's the Trump card. I mean, not to pardon the pun, but that's Trump's card. He's going to make, really, he's going to make him an offer you can't refuse. I mean, he's going to put money on the table. And just do me a favor, if you have time, just look at pictures of Nuke Greenland. Just go on whatever search engine you use, DuckDuckGo, Google, whatever. Go Nuke Greenland pictures, images, and you'll see how small so many of their homes are. And then, basically they barely have enough power to heat their homes. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me start the new year. I mean, I know we've been on the air since Monday, but, to me, we're still starting the new year. And let me start the new year with one of my favorite phrases, because it's true. Best audience in the business. Listen now to this message that I got from Eric on Messenger. Absolutely freaking brilliant. Jeff, Greenland is so much more important than just minerals for AI and the United States. It is strategically perfect to protecting the United States and the American people and the world. It is at the intersection of North America, Europe, and the Antarctic. You mean the Arctic, forgive me. Of North America, Europe, and the Arctic. If any country like Russia should fire a missile, we could shoot it down way before it reached the Americas. You get Greenland, you take Greenland, and we will have more than just a dome over the United States, but control in Europe in their backyard. And let's see how they like it. This is the start of the American Union and the defeat of the European Union. Bingo. That's why the EU elites are losing their minds. This is from Mark on Messenger. Jeff, what Trump should do is tell Europe, fine, if you don't want me to have Greenland, and if you block the United States from acquiring Greenland, then the United States is going to pull out of NATO. Because the United States doesn't need you. You need the United States. And then we'll see how long NATO lasts without money from the good old US of A. Bingo. They need us. We don't need them. Many of you are asking the Kuhner man about the weather in Greenland. Like, Jeff, is it, like, how bad is it? Well, okay, here it is. This is from, let me see here. This is Travel to the North. It's a very well-respected travel journal online. And Discovering the Truth. Is Greenland constantly dark for 6 months? Here is now what they write. I'm just going now by the travel experts. Greenland is considered the world's largest island and is located between the Arctic and Atlantic Oceans. It is an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. The climate in Greenland is mostly Arctic and is affected by the cold Siberian current. Okay, this is me now talking. You're going to freeze your ass off up there. Okay, but let that go. Greenland is a country of contrasts and extremes, with long periods of total darkness in the winter and continuous daylight in the summer. Well, really, Jeff, how bad can it be? Well, here it is. In the wintertime, Greenland has polar nights, which means that for several months a year, the sun never rises above the horizon. This period is known as the polar night. And in the northernmost parts of Greenland, it lasts for almost 4 months. Holy shamoly. From late November to late February. You know, you think we have it bad here in New England. Or, you know, I have a lot of Canadian listeners now up in Canada. The 51st state, maybe. We'll see. Boy, I don't care. $1 million, no $1 million. I wouldn't live in Greenland. But anyway, during this time, the entire region is covered in near total darkness, except for a few hours of twilight at midday, like at noon. Wow. The lack of sunlight during this time can affect people's mental and physical well-being. You think? You think. So due to this, some people choose to take vitamin D supplements or invest in light therapy lamps to offset the lack of natural light. Now, apparently in the summer, listen to this, the opposite occurs. The sun never sets, leading to a phenomenon known as the midnight sun. For nearly 3 months, the country experiences almost continuous daylight. In the northernmost parts of Greenland, the sun stays above the horizon from late April to late August. So, and apparently people like to go visit Greenland for the midnight sun. It says the tourists go there all over the world to see the stunning landscapes. And this is like at nighttime hours. Like it's 2 a.m. and it's like, you know, the sun is way up in the sky. It's just bright and beautiful like it's daytime. So basically, you've got 4 to 6 months, total darkness, 3 months, total sunlight. Nah, it's not for me. It's not for me. But Jeff, Trump will give you $1 million. Nah, it's still not for me. But I think for the people of Greenland, if all you're doing is living in total sun or in total darkness, $1 million goes a long way, baby. Trump now makes a push to acquire Greenland. Like, no like. Agree, disagree. Janice in North Carolina. Thanks for holding, Janice, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
Jeff, I really think that this is a last step, a final last move for the left. That is the feminists, the jihadis, Soros-Obama destruction of the U.S., control of the world. Europe can't stop the coming global caliphate, but they have to prove the right is not right. President Trump and the Millers are 1,000%, as you say, correct. Yes, take it.
Janice, and you know, of course, I agree with you, but let me just play devil's advocate for a second. What do you say to the argument, because this is the argument the left is making, the Democrats are making, the media is making, the Europeans are making, the globalists are making, that what we're doing now or want to do in Greenland, what Trump is attempting to do, it's basically imperialism. That we're violating the territorial integrity of another country, i.e. Denmark, which, you know, basically, you know, has possession over Greenland, and that this is an act of aggression against a fellow NATO ally, and that because of this will destroy the NATO alliance, and that we are no better than Vladimir Putin or the Russians in Ukraine, that we are taking something that doesn't belong to us. What say you?
Alliance. Europe is gone. It is gone. They've given it away. They sold it for money. Right? It was that simple. And they're still giving it away. It is not imperialism. That's just a silly argument.
Oh, I agree. I completely agree. No, and look, to me, this is I think the ace in our hole. Let's just ask the people of Greenland. That's all. You know, I'm sure Trump has got to talk to his, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, coordinate with Rubio, the State Department, but put together a package, an offer, a deal, whatever you want to call it, and say to the people of Greenland, hold a referendum, and here's what we're willing to offer you if you want to be part of the United States. And then let the people of Greenland choose. Let them decide their own future. It's the exact opposite of imperialism. And honestly, if they have half a brain, if they have any sense of their own self-interest, who's going to protect them better than us? Nobody. Who's going to develop their island better than us? Nobody. Who's going to put more money on the table right away? Each household. No one's going to put more money. Denmark's not going to put that kind of money. The EU's not going to put down that kind of money. So, 57,000 people on Greenland, to me, they'd be crazy if they didn't want to be part of the United States. And look, we get a very lightly populated territory, so we don't have to worry about, guerrilla warfare, insurgency, we're talking about basically a semi-empty island with 57,000 people, most of them in the southern part of the country, in their capital. And, we're going to get military bases. We're going to get the rare earth minerals. And it's the strategic location is perfect. It's absolutely perfect. So we win. Greenland wins. The Western Hemisphere wins. Everybody wins. This is to me the exact opposite of imperialism. Janice, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Just my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. I just quickly want to read this text. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. It is from 517. Jeff, to put a point on one of your last points, and this is really, I got to say, a really, really interesting point. How and why do 550 million Europeans demand that 350 million Americans protect them against 140 million Russians? When you just do the basic math, the EU consists of over half a billion people, 550 million residents of the European Union. We're a population, 350 million. So 550 million, and most of these countries are first world or wealthy countries. So 550 million is asking 350 million, us, to defend them against the country, i.e. Russia, of 140 million. Does this make sense to you? To me, the 350 million should tell the 550 million, you guys defend yourselves against the 140 million. And if we're strengthening ourselves to better defend you from the 140 million, shut up and smile. Just shut up and smile. No, instead, they whine, complain, nag, and now they're actually threatening us. Ben on the North Shore. Thanks for holding, Ben, and welcome. We lost Ben. Okay, let's go to Maestro Mike. Alan, we went from North Carolina. Now we're going to go to South Carolina. Alan, thanks for holding, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. All the best to you and your family, Alan.
Thank you, sir. Hey, I was thinking about this Greenland thing, and I want to put it in a sports analogy. In my mind, I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing the 1920 trade for Babe Ruth. The Yankees acquired Babe Ruth from the Boston Red Sox for a song and went on to dominate the American League East. This would be like that. We would acquire Babe Ruth, Greenland, with all of its rare earth minerals and all the everything, the strategic location for defense and everything. The lefties already consider us to be the evil empire. We might as well take Greenland and make it official.
Now, who's the Boston Red Sox in this analogy, Alan?
Denmark.
Denmark. I thought you were going to say the Europeans. In other words, they're not going to win again for what? What was it, almost 100 years? Mike, how long was the curse, the Red Sox curse, Mike? Sorry, Mike, is it like a sports?
1918 to 2004.
86 years. So they're not going to win again for 86 years. So you think it's Denmark or you think the Europeans? Who's the one with the curse?
Definitely the Europeans as a whole. But
Okay, let me ask you this, Alan. Let's say that, because this is now the potential scenario. The Danish government, the prime minister has said, Trump can put $1 trillion on the table. She said, I don't care what the amount is. Greenland is not for sale. Denmark will never sell it. Now, to my counter argument is, well, it's not yours to sell. It's up to the people of Greenland. But technically, it's part of the Kingdom of Denmark. So what they're saying is, it's not for sale. It never will be for sale. You can't have it. If Trump makes an offer directly to the people of Greenland, Denmark then says that's an act of aggression. The Europeans are backing Denmark, supporting Denmark, saying it is an act of aggression. And from that point on, all bets are off. NATO ends. Our relations are finished. The cooperation and partnership between the United States and Europe will come to an end. In other words, this is what the Europeans are saying. Is Greenland worth losing Europe, losing NATO, losing this partnership between Europe and the United States that has really existed since the American Revolution? So the Europeans are saying, we go for Greenland, and essentially Europe will break away in every possible way from ties with the United States. What say you?
Who needs who more? I mean, that's what it all comes down to. And when you look at it, I mean, I have tons of friends in Europe, and, I've been all over the place over there. Lovely people. But, I mean, the leaders, the New World Order, the whatever you want to call them, the globalists.
Yeah, they're the ones that are pushing this. See, I agree with you, Alan. I think this is not going to fly with the people of Europe. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, in the next hour, trust me, you don't want to miss it. Trump delivers big on Venezuela. Huge announcement. He's on a roll. He's clearly on a roll. And after the successful nighttime raid in Venezuela and then this further deal that he now announced last night, and I'm going to get into the details, he now says the crown jewel is Greenland. For his Monroe Doctrine, his corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, that he believes Greenland would give the United States the vital reserves, mineral reserves, the strategic location in the Arctic, in the North Atlantic, our ability to not just project power, but to tap into the vast reserves of oil and natural gas in the Arctic, that this would really cement America as a dominant power in the world and as the clear sole power in the Western Hemisphere for at least a century. And so he's making a play for Greenland. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Agree? Disagree? Mike, do me a favor. If there is a caller that is against Trump on Greenland, can we fast track him, Mike, or her? Please. Because I want to, the poll says it's 75-25. 75 say yes to acquiring Greenland. 25% say no. I'd like to give the 25% at least a chance to voice their opinion on the air, or an aspect of their opinion. 6-1. I promise, if you're against it, please let me know. Call. I won't bite. I want to hear all points of view on this. 617-266-6868. Ellie in Worcester. Thanks for holding, Ellie, and welcome.
Hello. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Ellie. All the best to you and your family. Ellie, are you a yes or a no on Greenland?
Well, it all depends. I think that
for instance, Iceland got their independence from Denmark, I think, in the 60s, and they were a dirt poor country. I mean, decades ago, a lot of people still had dirt floors. I mean, they were really, really poor. And they celebrate their independence from Denmark just as much as we do the July 4th. So I think, and they thrived. They thrived. So I think if there's going to be a technical legal problem with the Denmark, I think the Greenlanders should first declare that they want independence from Denmark, just like the Icelandics did. And then, because there's, 56,000 people there?
Yes.
That's 56,000 votes. Bam, it's ours. Then, I think that if there's going to be a deal, it has to be with the permission of the Greenlanders themselves. And I think if there's going to be, I think like in Alaska, a lot of the residents get partial money from all the drilling and stuff like that. So I think that they should be able to get a part of the spoils if there's going to be money made up there. And that'll be a really good incentive. But like I say, if there's going to be a legal problem, maybe they should declare independence, boom, write them a letter, everybody sign it. We're independent from you, Denmark, stuff it, And then they can...
I agree, Allie. I think you've laid it out very well, and I agree with you completely. Look, I'm not going to support. I'm not. If Trump... And he won't. I'm telling you, he won't. Marco Rubio already told members of Congress behind closed doors. He goes, yeah, we're talking a little tough, military options on the table. But that's just to pressure Denmark to the negotiating table. That's pretty much what Rubio said verbatim. He said, we're going to buy it. We're going to acquire it. Only with the permission of the Greenlanders. They have to vote on it. So basically, we want to, we're not going to invade and militarily annex Greenland. I would not support a unilateral military invasion of Greenland. To me, that's wrong on many levels. But you're right. I think Greenland should declare independence from Denmark, which there's overwhelming support for that in Greenland. They want nothing to do with the Danes. I don't blame them. And then make them an offer. And make them a nice offer. And I agree with you. And Trump has already even said it. That's the other thing. This is not, it's new in the sense that Trump is more serious. He's more intense. He's making a push. But he wanted Greenland even in his first term. This is not new. He wanted Greenland. If you remember, we talked about it on the show. What was it? Almost a year ago when Trump was sworn in. Early in his second term, he said, no, I want to acquire Greenland. We need it. He said it in his first term. So this is not new. He's been eyeing Greenland now for a while, saying it's vital to our national security, our long-term economic security. He's right. But, he said, we're going to divvy it up fairly. We're going to share all the wealth, all of the rare earth minerals that we extract. We're going to give the locals, obviously, a nice, generous cut. We're going to develop Greenland. We're going to modernize Greenland. In other words, we're not just coming in there to just, take everything out of the ground and to hell with the locals. So I agree with you, Ellie. I think it's got to be done right. It's got to be done fairly. It's got to be done judiciously. But again, if I'm living in Greenland, I got three options. I either can stay in Denmark or with Denmark. No. I can be completely on my own, independent. Well, how are you going to defend yourself? You're 56,000 people and poor. And the Russians want you and the Chinese want you. And they're swimming like sharks around that island. Ship after ship, submarine after submarine. Or you can be a territory or state of the United States. And all the freedoms and benefits that come with it. And Trump is even going to probably sweeten the pot by giving probably a cash payment to every household or every citizen in Greenland. I think it's a no-brainer. but that's the way I like it to be done. I want it to be done that way, fairly, peacefully, democratically, voluntarily. If you do it this way, the Europeans don't have a leg to stand on. The Danes don't have a leg to stand on. Nobody has a leg to stand on. And I believe in manifest destiny. I do. I believe the United States is destined to be the sole dominant power of the Western Hemisphere. I believe this is our sphere of influence. It is our backyard. We acquired Alaska, same thing, peacefully, democratically. It was an offer. The Russians accepted it. The Alaskans accepted it. Everything's been great. Well, that was on the Pacific. Now we need to acquire the Atlantic, the North Atlantic. And I think we're on the cusp of doing it. If Trump pulls this off, it will be one of the greatest foreign policy achievements in the history of the United States. No question about it. Ellie, thank you so much for that call. Chris in the great state of Missouri. Thanks for holding, Chris, and welcome.
Good morning.
Hi,
Here's
Chris.
my question.
Yes.
I want to ask you this question. I've been to Europe a lot of times. I go there all the time. I was there for a month in November. What do you think the EU would do if China militarily took over Greenland?
Nothing.
That's right. That's exactly right. They wouldn't do nothing.
Now, Chris, is your point if we take it over, the Europeans will do nothing? Or is your point that they'd rather even have China have it than us have it?
Statement. I think they would rather have China have it than us have it. They're already taking over most of Brazil right now. My wife's from there. So that's my point, Jeff.
No, Chris, I wish I could disagree with you, but I can't. You're completely right. And by the way, you're completely right about Brazil, and you can throw in Peru and Chile as well. China, Brazil's largest trading partner is not the United States. It used to be. It's China. Peru, largest trading partner, China. Chile, largest trading partner, China. China is trying to move into our sphere of influence. And you're 1,000% correct. If China just annexed Greenland militarily, brutally, okay, say what they want to do to Taiwan, they do to Greenland. Just a la Putin in Ukraine. They just send in the submarines, they send in the boats, the Navy ships, the destroyers, the warships, and they just hammer the place and then take it over. I mean, the Europeans would whine and complain and protest. They wouldn't fire a bullet. They'd let China take it. But we want it, and we want it at a very, in a very fair, equitable way. And now it's the end of the world. So I think, Chris, you nailed it. Now we know what the Europeans really think about us and about the globalists and about China. They're not our friends. They pretend to be our friends. I'm talking about the leadership, not the people, the elites. But they're not our friends. Thank you so much for that call, Chris. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. You've been asking for her all morning. She's here Wednesday, 9 o'clock. You know what that means? Dr. Grace putting liberals in their place. Grace Vuoto, my wonderful wife, my better half. Grace, I've got to ask you right out of the gate. Trump now says Greenland is in play. He now wants to make a move to acquire Greenland. Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, apparently gave a closed-door briefing to lawmakers yesterday in which he said that the Trump's intention is to buy Greenland, to acquire it by putting a cash offer on the table. Listen to President Trump on Air Force One, and I want to get your reaction. This was Trump just a couple days ago after his militarily successful raid on Maduro, saying we need Greenland and eventually we're going to get Greenland. Roll cut 4B, Mike.
I will say this about Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you that. You know what Denmark did recently to boost up security in Greenland? They added one more dog sled. It's true. They thought that was a great move.
What would the justification be for a claim to Greenland? What would the justification?
Oh, I don't want to talk about Greenland now. I just say this. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security, and the European Union needs us to have it.
Well, the European Union is saying they don't want us to have it, and that if we try to acquire it, it will be the end of NATO, and that it will rupture all diplomatic relations between Europe and the United States. So my question to you, Grace, should Trump seize Greenland? Should it be a part of the United States? And is it worth now a diplomatic showdown with the EU?
Absolutely not. And we don't need to buy something that we can just have for free. And that's really the big story here. The Danes have been willing to cooperate with us. We already have a military base there. If America just uses its influence, its diplomatic influence, and just increases more and more of its presence there, we don't have to spend a penny buying something that Americans, by and large, don't want. And when we talk about the concerns that we have regarding Russia and China, there's many other ways to cower Russia and China than focusing on Greenland. So my advice to the president would be, I understand you want to protect America's national interests, but we can do that without antagonizing the Europeans. We can do it by cooperating with them, and we can do it without spending the money that it would take to buy Greenland. Moreover, I don't want us to compromise our moral authority. We shouldn't take anything that doesn't belong to us. We should do everything based on the will of the people. So everything depends on what the Greenlanders want or don't want. So I don't want to see us becoming an imperialistic power.
Well, let me ask you this, Grace. We purchased Alaska in 1867. We got it, frankly, for a song. It was a great deal. And it turned out to be one of the greatest actions and moves in the history of the United States. If it worked for Alaska, why can't it work for Greenland? Let the Greenlanders hold a referendum. They will decide their future, and we can put an offer on the table to acquire them. And, you know, instead of us having to go to Denmark and make great agreements with Denmark, we can own Greenland, have full legal control, own the resources, own the rare earth minerals, project power. It's ours, the way Alaska is ours. What's wrong with that? You're not happy with Alaska? You want to give it back to the Russians?
No, absolutely not, Jeff. But the point right now is, as far as we know, from all the polls, the Greenlanders don't want to join the United States. So until we have the consent of the people, this is a non-starter. And furthermore, I would say we need to hold a referendum here in the United States, too. Do we want to invest money to buy this territory? Why, when we have so many problems here at home that we have not addressed? And, Jeff, the larger point is this. I'm hearing from so many people just sick and tired of President Trump focusing on foreign affairs. The question that has to be asked now is he morphing into a globalist? Is his administration being hijacked by people like Lindsey Graham? You know who I see smiling from ear to ear every time I turn on the television now? It's Lindsey Graham. And that's not good news for MAGA. I want our president to focus on what is going on within this country. And when you think about it, we gave him the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court. We gave him the presidency. How many pieces of legislation, I'm talking legislation, do we have? 2. We've got 2 pieces of legislation, the Big Beautiful Bill and the Lake and Riley Act. That's it for everything we delivered? I want this president to focus within our borders. That is what we voted for.
So you're basically just not to put too fine a point on it, but you're siding with Denmark.
I am siding with the American people, Jeff. We are not an imperialistic nation. We don't want to go down that road. We shouldn't be bullying other countries to get their resources, and we should be working in harmony with the Europeans. Look at how much this president has started. We started a trade war. We've already started a trade war with much of the whole world. And this is ongoing. I mean, just recently, the president has had to roll back so many of these tariffs. He's cutting back tariffs now on beef, coffee, tropical fruits, spices. Now he's got to roll back the tariffs on pharmaceuticals, semiconductors. Now he's got to roll back the tariffs on upholstered furniture, kitchen cabinets, vanities. We've got a tariff policy right now that has yet to be fully determined and flushed out. And until that is, this is not good for the American economy. So I just think this president is doing way too much too fast. We need to see domestic victory after domestic victory before we even talk about anything beyond these borders. You know, it's funny. I called my sister the other day, and she said, Grace, I turn on the news every night to hear how the economy's doing, and I'm learning about another country. She says, I've learned more about the countries in the world during this administration than I have in my entire life. And if we talk about wanting to curtail Russia and China, the way to do it is to uphold also our moral authority. By what right are we going to be able to tell China, you're not going to make inroads into Taiwan? By what right are we going to be able to stand firmly with Russia as it continues to make inroads into Ukraine if we ourselves are now starting to espouse a doctrine, as Stephen Miller did just yesterday, that might makes right? This is not who we are as Americans. I'm all for a strong national defense, but right now we are going far beyond that. And remember what Biden did during his first term. He made a big mistake. He went too far to the left. And my fear now is with this kind of rhetoric, these kinds of policies, this president is starting to go too far to the right.
Too far to the right? You're kidding me.
Meaning.
Hold on. So now, whoa. So now what? He's a fascist now?
No, I'm not saying he's a fascist, but I'm saying.
You sound honestly. You have you morphed into a Democrat? You sound like CNN the way you're blasting Trump. Let me ask you this. I asked you twice. I want to ask you a third time. If the people of Greenland choose to be part of the United States and we make a cash offer to buy Greenland, how is this Vladimir Putin? How is this invading Ukraine? How is this China invading Taiwan? Now, you're right. Polls right now in Greenland say they don't want to join us, but that's because they haven't heard from an offer from us. Wait till we put a nice offer on the table. Once we put a nice offer on the table and show them everything we're going to do for Greenland, I guarantee you're going to get 80 to 90% support. So I go back to my earlier point about Alaska. What we're doing in Greenland is exactly the same as we did in Alaska. Do you want to give Alaska back to the Russians? Because according to you, that was imperialism.
Jeff, listen, do not refer to me as an exponent of left-wing ideas. I am a firm America First patriot. And what I'm seeing now is the president is going beyond what he discussed during the campaign again and again and again. And we need him to deliver on domestic legislation that sticks. Just yesterday, he said that there's a real danger that if the Democrats win the midterms, he will be impeached. And in fact, he is correct. And what happens if the Democrats come to power? They will just roll back all the executive orders that Trump put into place. Eventually, they'll just roll it all back. So what we need for the America First agenda to be successful is for much of it to be codified into law. And I want to see this president every day talking to senators and congressmen about how we advance our domestic priorities. And when we talk about Greenland, unless we also have a referendum in this country, does this country want to purchase it? It's a non-starter for me, because I believe that the American people should wait.
We're up against it. I need a yes or a no. Are you saying you don't want Greenland? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is from Marianne, who messaged me, just maybe 10 minutes ago. Here's what she wrote. Jeff, thank you to Grace. Your wife is spot on. Give this woman an hour a week. I will not stop advocating for her. Laugh out loud. I love you in a non-sexual way, Jeff. And you are very, very intelligent. Well, thank you, Marianne. But I agree with Grace on so many things. By the way, I did not hear her say she did not want Greenland. What I heard her say was that what I heard her say was that Trump needs to focus on this country first and Greenland, etc. later. That's what I heard right in the beginning. So I've been texting Grace back and forth. I'm like, can you give me a yes or a no? So I texted her and I said, here's how I phrased it to her. I said, would you vote to acquire Greenland? Yes or no? And she said, look, what I said is both Greenlanders and Americans have to vote for this. And at what cost? We can exert influence there now anyways. I texted her back. I said, no, but just how would you vote? Yes or no? Should we acquire Greenland? She writes back, it depends on the cost. With what money? We're broke. China has to fund more of our debt to buy it. The Kuhner man. So you're against acquiring Greenland? Question mark. Yes or no? Grace texts back. Unless Greenlanders and Americans vote for this directly, it's a no. The Kuhner man. But how would you vote? It's no if we have to spend billions. So Grace says if we have to spend money, like billions of dollars, she's against it. Her last text to me, spend the billions here at home. So let me ask you, what do you make of Grace's argument? A, if we do acquire Greenland, should we have to have a vote here in the United States? Not just in Greenland, but a referendum here to acquire a massive chunk of territory like Greenland. Agree, disagree. And furthermore, Grace says it's a bad deal. We don't have the money. We're deeply in debt. We're going to be more indebted to China to have to purchase Greenland. Let's focus on rebuilding America here. Don't spend the billions to acquire Greenland. Spend the billions here in the United States. President Trump should stop trying to pursue foreign policy victories and focus on the domestic economy and on jobs, inflation, affordability, and other issues that are a priority for many Americans. Agree, disagree. Jimmy in Dorchester. Thanks for holding, Jimmy, and welcome.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Jimmy.
I have to say something about Denmark that people don't realize. Did you ever hear of an author, J. Lee Redding? He wrote books on foreign access, the German collaborators and foreign volunteers in World War II. If you go to page 34 in Volume 1, you're going to see a write-up about Denmark. Do you know in April 9th, 1940, the Nazis rolled into Denmark, different parts of Denmark. Before the people could even eat breakfast, they already were overtaken. The Nazis weren't considered invaders. They were considered guests. After a month, a lot of the people volunteered to work, 25,000 of them for the Nazis.
Jimmy, so are you saying that we shouldn't acquire Greenland because they collaborated in the past?
No, we should make a deal and get Greenland. But I'm saying that we have to protect ourselves. Because look at, like, the Danes themselves, instead of fighting the Nazis, they welcomed them as guests. And in that book, if you read a couple of the volumes, there's like 4 of them. There's by this author, J. Lee Redding. He talks about Ukraine, where Ukraine collaborated with the Nazis and they're fighting with the Russians. They got part of Poland. They got part of Ukraine. I mean, Ukraine's got part of Lithuania. They got parts of Romania. How about giving those lands back to those countries that weren't yours? Hitler rewarded Ukraine with all those lands.
Well, Jimmy, look, I think that's one of the arguments that Trump is going to make to the American people when he, puts forth a serious offer, which is if we don't acquire it, China or Russia will. That's the point. The Greenlanders don't want to be part of Denmark. They're going to secede. It's inevitable. So can Greenland stand on its own 2 feet alone? No, they can't. With all due respect, they're 56,000 people, population. They have hardly no security whatsoever. The only security they have is our military bases that we have on that island. So, Russia wants it. China wants it. If we don't acquire it, they will. And I'm telling you, the Russians and the Chinese are not going to give them any kind of a generous offer that comes close to what we're willing to put on the table. So, to me, it's a question of either we get it or the Russians or the Chinese get it. And do we want the Russians and the Chinese to have Greenland right in our own backyard? I'm a niet. Okay. I think Grace has really opened up a very interesting angle to this whole conversation, which is acquiring Greenland a good use of our taxpayer dollars? Grace says no. She's saying we're just throwing billions and billions of money that, frankly, we don't have because we're $38 trillion in debt. As she put it to me in a text message, so we're going to have to ask China to fund more of our debt. So focus on our problems here at home. Forget about Greenland. We've got bigger fish to fry. My counter argument to her is, and we're probably going to continue it tonight at the dinner table, and my 2 kids will always side with Grace because that's what they do. So it's going to be 3 against 1, but that's okay. My counter argument is, look, either the Russians or the Chinese take it over or we take it over. Because I'm telling you, the Greenlanders are sick of being under Danish control and under the heel of the Danes. So the Greenlanders are going to break away. That's inevitable. And they can't stand on their own. They're not going to last as an independent country. So the Chinese want them, the Russians want to swallow them, or we can take them. Now, to me, I don't want the Russians and the Chinese to have them. So better us than anybody else. But anyway, let that go. That's my counter argument. Now, but, her answer is, her rebuttal is, well, it should at least have a vote in Congress, because we don't do referendums in this country for the most part. So it should at least be passed by, have a vote in Congress, be approved by Congress, because you're acquiring a massive chunk of real estate for the rest of the country's, existence. So this should have at least congressional approval. In other words, the country should weigh in. We should have a national debate. Secondly, is this a wise or proper, prudent use of our taxpayer dollars? Do we even have the money to buy it, considering our financial situation and the levels of our national debt? So what do you think? 617-266-6868. This is from 603. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470. Jeff, the EU saying that America taking over Greenland is quote-unquote imperialism is laughable on 2 accounts. First off, if we essentially buy Greenland by consent, that is not imperialism, it's acquisition. Bingo. Secondly, if you have studied Adolf Hitler's plan to take over all of Europe and put it under one flag, other than taking it by force, it doesn't look much different than this modern version of the European Union. So for that board of unelected European bureaucrats to call us, quote unquote, imperialistic is again laughable on its face. Just my 2 cents. Well, just very quickly, you can look this up. Please don't take my word for it. The godfather of the European Union, it started off as the European Community, the EC, and then it evolved into the European Union. But the idea of a federal United States of Europe is the brainchild, literally, of a Nazi collaborator. You know the term Quisling? You're a Quisling, usually like a fascist satellite state, a Quisling regime. That was named after a prominent Nazi in Norway, a Norwegian. His last name was Quisling. Well, this guy Quisling is the one that came up with the idea of the European Union. And the EU architects based their idea of the EU on Quisling's very ideas. You can look it up. So the actual origins, the source of the European Union, it's a fascist project. Don't take my word for it. That's why, if you notice, it has fascist overtones. It destroys national sovereignty. It seeks to destroy all national cultures and wants to just sort of create a massive empire within Europe under one flag, under an unelected, unaccountable bureaucracy, elites. It is for censorship. It puts people in prison for their opinions or their views that are critical of the EU. So there are many aspects of the European Union that are clearly fascistic, and that's not by accident. Look it up. Don't take my word for it. Paul in Texas. Thanks for holding, Paul, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Paul.
I've been listening to you for years. Called in a couple of times. I have to agree with you. And not agree with Grace.
Paul, hold on one second, my friend from Texas. Something has happened. You sound like a robot. You started off sounding like a human being, and then I disagree with Grace. So let's see if we can reset the connection. Mike, work your magic, my friend. Paul, are you there? Paul? Okay, we're trying to reset here. Hold on. We're trying to reestablish connection, Paul. See, it's incredible. Whenever somebody calls in and says, I agree with Jeff over Grace, suddenly the connection doesn't work. It's amazing, isn't it? You know, don't think I don't see what's going on there, Mike. Paul, do we have you, Paul?
Yeah, I think you do. Do I sound okay now?
You sound like a human being again. Go ahead.
All right,
so you agree with me, you disagree with Grace. I could use you at the dinner table tonight, but let that go, Paul. Go ahead, my friend.
I can relate. I've been married 45 years, so yeah.
And you know you're never right? You know that. Once you get married, welcome to the club of never being right. And she's never wrong. But let that go, Paul.
Yeah, yes, dear. Yes, dear. And I'm a grandfather of 8, and I support President Trump and all that he is doing. And I'm sick and tired of the naysayers, the people that voted for Trump, the people who say they support Trump, but that they you know what Trump said yesterday at the Kennedy the Kennedy Center to the Republican caucus was, you know, look, guys, the Democrats always stick together. You know, we need to stick together, and we need to support President Trump. One thing that people are not looking at is the trillions of dollars of resources that Greenland has. You know, underneath that ice, there's trillions of dollars of natural resources, you know, heavy metals, all the things that we need for the future for our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. And not only that, it is a strategic, like you said, we do not want Russia or China to get hold of Greenland. And I support President Trump. We have to be patient on the economic side of the domestic economic side. Things are getting better. But, you know, Biden screwed things up horribly. Biden and Obama ruined this country, and Trump is doing his best to bring it back, and he's doing miracles. It's miraculous what we're doing. The American people are just too impatient, and I don't know. I just trust President Trump, and I want to thank you, Jeff, for all that you do and all the work and all of the energy that you put into helping President Trump save this country.
Well, our country needs to be saved. And look, Paul, I'm with you all the way. Let me ask you this very quickly. Let me just mention some states or territories and because you're dead on. You're absolutely right. Greenland is going to give us trillions of dollars in the long run. Trillions. So we're going to spend a few billion, and that's what it's going to cost, to get trillions of dollars. It's going to be an incredible deal. Let me ask you this, Paul. Alaska. Hawaii. Puerto Rico. The Virgin Islands. And if you want to go back even further, Texas. Right? California in the 19th century that we added to the United States. Now, Louisiana. I mean, but my point is, Paul, look at how much it's paid off for the United States. So to me, we'd be crazy. It's like looking a gift horse in the mouth. If we can get Greenland for pennies on the dollar, and that's what it's eventually going to be, we'd be crazy. Harry in Maine. Thanks for holding, Harry, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, good morning and Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year. All the best to you and your family, Harry.
Thank you, Jeff, and the same to yours. You know, Jeff, I love Grace, I do, in a non-sexual way, but I've got to take exception with a couple of points. And good luck tonight at dinner, buddy. Your last caller really hit it on the head, and I'm going to just elaborate on that. And he said, look, you know, a lot of people are a little bit impatient. And I took exception to a couple of points that Grace made with all due respect. So the first one, she indicated that, you know, Trump put us in the trade war. Well, first of all, as your previous caller said, the damage that was done to this country by Obama and Biden was so immense. And you're not going to, when you get into an organization that's really that broke, you've got to go in, as they term it in the business sense, you got to go in and be able to break some glass, shake things up, so to speak. And what Trump did wasn't, it was a trade war, call it what it is. But the bottom line was he's right-sizing a situation that has been so adverse to the United States for years, and he's going to level set it. So when you get into a business negotiation, both sides are going to ask for more than what they really want or what they really need. And the idea is to try to settle somewhere in the middle so it's a win-win. So when she says that he's already, you know, backed down on certain tariffs, yeah, he did, but he asked for the sky, and he got the moon. So, I mean, you don't fault the person for that. That's just part of the art of the deal in negotiations. The other thing is, I don't think she gave him enough credit on what he's done already with the border. The border has an immense impact on the country, not just today, but going forward. And he's made a lot of progress and continues to progress. She didn't talk about the exposure of waste, fraud, and abuse. And that's a lingering effect. That's a faucet that's been leaking for years, and we're finding even more and more of it in Minnesota and California and so forth. So that's huge as well. You know, the big, beautiful bill in the Lake and Riley Act, yes, she's correct. Those are the only two things that have been passed. Congress needs to do more. But having said that, Jeff, let's give the big, beautiful bill a chance. And it's just really going into effect now. Okay, so those are some of my counterpoints to what she said. And the other thing, Jeff, that's a huge obstacle, she didn't give him any credit for what he's done with energy. I paid $2.58 a gallon at BJ's yesterday. And that's going to have a huge effect because now I have more disposable income when I go to the gas pump. There's money left over for other things, and it's going to take a while. You know, Biden, depleted our strategic reserve. And incidentally, the inflation rate didn't happen overnight when he was in office, but it happened gradually. So the point is, we're like an aircraft carrier. It takes a lot more time to turn an aircraft carrier than it does to navigate a PT boat. The big thing that's an obstacle right now is the Fed. And if he can get this guy out of his position and get the rates lowered to where they should be at a lower rate, that's going to help things to take off. And as far as Greenland goes, Jeff, I would just say this. Yes, she's right in saying that everything has a cost, and you have to do a return on investment analysis and determine it's the right price. So he's not going to get screwed. But this is all part of the negotiation. My only negative comment about the Trump administration, from my standpoint, that yet has been delivered, is accountability. And I've called your program several times on this, and I hope I'm wrong on this, but I think Pam Bondi was the wrong person.
I agree.
Mike Davis.
No, Harry, I agree. I mean, honestly, it's a master class what you just delivered in about 3 minutes. Really, absolute master class. Look, let me just put the cherry on the sundae. Donald Trump, in his first year in office, has done more than most presidents have done in 8 years. He is already one of the most successful, consequential, frankly, brilliant presidents we've ever had. And he's still got 3 more years to go. And if he can pull off, just to bring it back to Greenland, if he can pull off this deal with Greenland, it is going to go down in history as one of the greatest deals in the history of the United States. We're going to get Greenland with its strategic importance, its vast mineral wealth. I mean, how much do you think we're going to pay? $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion? For what it's worth trillions. It's peanuts. I mean, to me, this is it's a no-brainer for us. It's a no-brainer for them. But Harry, I want to go to something else very quick. Biden left us a mess, and it takes time to clean up a mess. And it's not just Biden, it's Obama, and bringing it back to the Monroe Doctrine, which is what Trump is trying to revive. Do you know, for his official policy, officially, Barack Hussein Obama said we are abandoning the Monroe Doctrine? The very pillar of American foreign policy that guided us for 2 centuries. And he just jettisoned it. He just got rid of it. So what Trump is doing is he's restoring the Monroe Doctrine. In other words, he's trying to clean up so much of the damage of 8 years of Obama, 4 years of Biden. Give the guy a break, man.